towards the back there if you can hear me okay. Excellent. So we're at the top of the hill here. Have a good look out to the left-hand side. Seeing as we have such a good day, we get a pretty good view overlooking where we're about to go. You can see the road that we'll be driving on down there. But in the distance we can see a much steeper part of the glacier. Now that steep section of ice we can see in the distance is what we call the head wall. And that is the very beginning of the Athabasca Glacier as it drops from the Columbia Icefield up the top. Now you should be able to make out 3 steps or levels that form the head wall. Everything above the top step is the Columbia Icefield. So even on a perfectly clear day like today, we can only see a very small amount of the icefield because it's sitting at a much higher elevation than where we are throughout the tour. So take a mental picture or even a real picture of what you see out here now. Might make a little bit more sense when I speak about it later on. First of all, in order to get onto the glacier, we do have to deal with a very substantial drop here. Anyone scared of heights at all?
No.
If you're not owning up, you might want to close your eyes for the next minute or two. See if the brakes work better this time. Alright, this is actually the steepest passenger carrying road in Canada. It has a grade of about 32%. That's an angle of about 18 degrees. But this bus we are traveling in has been specially designed for this exact purpose and this exact location. It's custom built in Calgary by a company called Foremost Industries, and Foremost specialize in very large off-road vehicles. This particular model, called a Terra bus, is indeed 6-wheel drive. Also has steady pace as we come down the hill here. In fact, it works so well that there's really no need to use the brakes at all. However, I do have my foot on them just in case. Now another specialized feature I'm sure you guys noticed are the tires. They stand about 5 feet or 1.6 meters tall, and they're about 3 feet or 1 meter wide. And they all run at a very low pressure. At most, there's only about 15 psi in each tire. That's roughly half what you would find in your average car tire on the highway. And this creates a very large footprint, which does a lot less damage to the glacier. Certainly compared to the old days of heavy metal tracks, they were very good at chewing up the ice. Of course, rubber tires give us a much more comfortable ride as well. Now, in case you're wondering, each tire costs a little over $5,000, and if we get a flat, it will slow us down a bit because it takes 2 mechanics and a forklift to change one. Through the rock here and there. Now this part of the glacier is called an ice-cored moraine. And it consists of about 1 foot or 30 centimeters of this rock and dirt sitting on top of about 30 meters or 100 feet of ice. Now the reason this part of the glacier is still sitting up quite high, certainly when you compare it to the main body of ice that's here, is because the ice underneath us is melting much slower than that ice. It's because it has a blanket, if you will, of rock and dirt sitting on top of it. That's insulating and protecting the ice while it's melting. It's a little bit slower than the ice that's exposed to the full sun. Before we get onto that ice, we do have to go through a little bit of a puddle here. This is a small depression that we actually maintain in the glacier, as you can see, works in progress. And we do this and we allow it to fill up with meltwater because as high as we can. So we don't bring too much of that material onto this exposed ice that we're now pulling onto. Because any rock or dirt that we bring onto the glacier with us, it doesn't get thick enough to offer the insulating effect like the material in the ice-cored moraine. In fact, it does the exact opposite. Thin patches of dirt or scattered rocks are obviously much darker than snow and ice. So on a warm day like today, when the sun is out, they absorb heat. More rock will disappear as it melts into the ice. Obviously, we're not in the business of melting a glacier. It's not real good for job security as well. That's why we wash the tires. Although when you look around us, you might be wondering why we even bother. As you can see that the ice is already quite dirty. But that black or brown dirt that you can see on the ice is completely natural. It actually comes from snow. What happens is when a snowflake forms in the atmosphere, moisture drops of water are freezing or sticking to impurities in the atmosphere. These impurities are most of the time microscopic particles of dust or dirt. However, they can also be pollutants of many different types. Of course, ash from wildfires and volcanoes as well. Eventually this snowflake will fall to Earth with its little dust core, and in most cases it simply melts away, and then local wind will just blow that impurity that it formed around away, so we don't really ever get to see it.